Hi everyone, welcome to Your Choice, Your Voice. I'm your host, Aisha Naseem. Welcome to my second episode. Now, this is all very exciting for me because hosting a show has been a childhood dream of mine. So I want you to go grab your beverage of choice, whether that's coffee, chai, or some water, and let's have a conversation. So, today I wanted to talk about discipline. And I know that this word gets thrown around a lot, especially in the self help community. But there's always this confusion of what actually discipline is and whether it's the same thing as motivation. So, this topic came to my head because recently I am trying to do something for myself, and for some reason, I have been putting it off. I've been experiencing procrastination and so much resistance. And I'm trying to think about why that could be because all throughout my life, especially in university, I was that type of person that would always start on assignments very early, have a plan ready to implement, and, get that great mark. But for some reason, nowadays, I'm experiencing this resistance. And I wanted to talk about how sometimes you may want to do something that is very beneficial to you, but for some reason you can't push yourself to do it. And what is discipline? So when I think of discipline, I think it's having I don't want to use the word discipline in the definition, but choosing to do something even when you don't feel like it. And that could be basically for anything. Maybe it's going to the gym or cooking up or meal prepping or working on that really boring assignment when you really don't want to. And that's very different from, I would say, motivation, because motivation is having that enthusiasm to do something, that push, that you're ignited to do something. But discipline is more when you want to do some when you have to do something when you really don't want to. And that got me thinking, like, how do I build discipline? And did I have discipline in the past, and what eroded that recently? And I think when we think of discipline, we think of something very cut and dry, boring, and we think of cold showers. And especially if you frequent the self help community, discipline is something that bodybuilders have, or people who work like 12, 15 hours a day. They have discipline, but we don't. But I think discipline results from a mindset shift. And instead of looking at something that you have to do, something that is an obligation, I'm starting to view discipline as a form of self love and self kindness. So there are things that you want to do or that you have to do which will be beneficial for you in the long run. Maybe it is exercising, maybe it's eating healthy, maybe it's getting up early in the morning. And although it may not be enjoyable in the moment, it is going to bring much longer lasting happiness to you. So when you are disciplined, in your mind, tell yourself that this is what exactly what I need. I love myself so much and I want to see the best possible results for myself, that I choose to do something. And one thing that I've heard recently is, let's say you have something to do, in your mind you might think, "Oh, I have to do it." But you should shift your language into saying, "Oh, I choose to do it. It is in a privilege to do this, whatever this may be." And so this mindset shift, I think, would lessen my resistance to whatever that task that I'm putting off. That I love myself so much that I'm doing this right now, even if it means sacrificing comfort, sacrificing that extra hour of sleep because I'm worth that extra amount of work so that I reap the benefits maybe, months or years down the line. So it's an act of self love. And also, you might experience resistance because there is a discrepancy between how you see yourself and what you're about to do. So maybe you have internalized yourself as someone who gives up easily, someone who doesn't try hard enough, someone who is a failure. Maybe through certain events in your life, or there is a culmination of different choices you made that have led you to believe that you're just not a hard worker, that you're just not someone who wakes up early in the morning. So the next point deals with your identity. How do you see yourself? Do you see yourself as a hard worker, as someone who never gives up, as someone who makes healthier choices? Or you see yourself as someone who's a procrastinator? When you internalize an identity, it's very hard for us to do something against that identity. And maybe you've read the book Atomic Habits, but it talks about how it's easier to quit smoking if you internalize the identity that I'm not a smoker, rather than you just focusing on that habit. So, how do you see yourself? I want to ask you, reflect. And who do you want to become? Maybe, I'm guilty of that too, that I have some self defeating ideas of who I am, but there are things that I aspire to be, and slowly with small changes, I can become that person that I want to be. And another thing that really got me thinking is small acts really add up to your character. So, what do I mean by that? I realized that every little thing that I do, as in every time I procrastinate on a very small thing, it adds up and feeds into the idea of who I am. So, for example, I've learned that, maybe recently, or I'm someone who tries to pray 5 times a day. And every time I delay that prayer because they happen at a prescribed time, and that is something that's important to me. At the same time, every time I delay my prayers, I tell myself that this is someone I'm becoming, someone who delays things, someone who procrastinates things. And it's very small. Maybe if I delay it for an hour, but slowly that kind of feeds onto what I was talking about earlier on your identity. Maybe you're someone who values waking up early to work on your chores, but for some reason, little by little, you are kind of slacking off and you're doing things that are not core to who you want to become, but it then tells your brain that, oh, maybe I am this type of person. So, and this is for me too. It's not like I'm preaching to you, I'm not teaching to you. I'm trying to do these things myself, and I'm trying to think of what are small ways that I act that feed into my identity negatively. Being a procrastinator, being someone who is not active, being someone who rather be comfortable than embrace the discomfort. And also, another thing that I've thought about is when you do something that might be very beneficial for you in the long term, but you are experiencing some resistance, that resistance is completely okay. Doing the right thing, doing the healthier option will bring discomfort in the beginning. It definitely would. But if you just sit through that discomfort maybe for the 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, that discomfort will dissipate, and you will be totally engrossed in whatever you're doing, whether that's writing or exercising. That discomfort is actually a good sign that you're growing. And a lot of times, because we're so prone to comfort and familiarity, we tend to go towards people, places, things, habits that are not good for us, but that are so familiar to us that it brings us comfort. It's almost like a balm to our wounds, basically. When, and that is, again, I'm speaking from personal experience. When I am going through a tough time, when things just aren't adding up, I go back to things, people, places, things, and habits that are not right for me, but in a way are very familiar and they bring me comfort. But guess what? It may bring me momentary comfort, but in the long run, it makes me feel ashamed that I went back to those things. And so I think we can all train ourselves to be comfortable in our discomfort. And I know it's easier said than done. I'm working on it. I I want to train myself. And one thing that I came across when I was learning about discipline is a lot of people put themselves through uncomfortable positions on purpose so that their mind and their body gets used to that. And for example, cold showers is one where you're willingly putting yourself in uncomfortable positions so that your mind kind of grows from that and embraces the discomfort. Or whether that is exercise is also a form of embracing the discomfort. It may feel like hell in the first few times you exercise, but then your muscle kind of grows stronger. So that is kind of the idea behind that. So I actually went back and I took up reading once again as a hobby when I was in high school and middle school and elementary school. I loved reading, and I think because when I was younger, when I was in elementary school, I was one of those shy kids, the stereotypical shy kids that, you know, would rather read a book than talk to people. But so from an early age, I loved, loved, loved reading. I started reading Goosebumps and Dear Dumb Diary. I don't know if I'm remembering the names right. And also Diary of a Wimpy Kid. And then I made my way to like this, and then I read Twilight and Divergent series. I read a lot. I remember one time in high school for my winter break, me and my best friend at that time would basically check out like 5, 6 books, and we were so excited to read it. But, life happens and university and, things just got so busier. I just couldn't find the time to read. But then I realized I do a lot of reading as it is because I go on things like Reddit. All that reading adds up. So why not actually read books? So, long story short, I got back into reading. I finally got my own library card after 25 years. I used to have a library card. We somehow the book got lost. We returned the book. The library said we didn't. We had to pay like $50 in fines. And I think recently Toronto Public Library has taken out fines in general. Like you don't have to pay any fines. And I think maybe I'll have to double check. But so we had to pay $50. My mom was like, you're not getting another library card ever again. And this was back when I was in maybe middle school or something. So yeah, sadly, I never had a library card up until now. I finally made a new one. And in my last episode, I talked about the book What Alice Forgot. And I finished the book, and I would rate it, I would say 3 out of 5, because near the end it got a bit too a lot of extra fluff, and when it ended I really didn't care about the characters because it was just really long without it wasn't necessary to draw it out that much. But for those that don't know, the premise of the book was there's a woman, she is happily married, she's pregnant, and something happens. She falls down from a bike in this gym studio, and she loses her memory. So in the present day, she's 39 years old, about to get divorced, hates her, like there's this feud going on between her and her sister, and she's like, how did I end up here? Because when I was 29, I was so happy. I wasn't getting divorced. I was gonna have a kid. Now she has three kids. And so this book kind of made me think about what would I be like 10 years from now. And also 10 so if I go back 10 years back to 2012, will I like what I have become in the present day? So, yeah, it's just an interesting question. Like, um, are you happy with how the things turned out in your life? Because 10 years ago, I was 15 years old. I think I was in grade 10. And damn, that was like 10 years. Anyways, um, do I like the way things are? Yeah, I do. And it's definitely very different than what I could have imagined because honestly, so many things have happened in the last 10 years, and I'm definitely a very different person. I'm the same person at its core, but because of all these different experiences, it's like there's another layer of onion, I guess, in my personality. And I'm actually happy about that. But 10 years after, I think, I don't know, it's kind of scary to think how life could end up and whether we will like what we see in the future, you know, in terms of relationships, in terms of career, in terms of just in general growth. Because in the book, the woman turns into someone she's not proud of. She turns into someone that is very uh, confrontational, very much fast paced, and she's like, how did I become this? So I guess I just want to say that, life is a sum of the intentional choices you make because every day we do have a choice. And also, the other half of it is in life, there will be events that happen to you that you can't control. And that is a fact of life. Like, even if you plan everything to a T, it will throw you curveballs. But it's up to you uh, of how you will respond to it. Will you become someone that you're proud of, or will you become someone that you're not? And in a way, life, I like think talking about life, but it makes me think about those choose your or own ending books. I don't know if you've read or heard about them, but when I was a kid, there used to be these books where you can choose what the character does, and depending on the choices you make, you get this unique ending. And that's how I think about life. Life presents you with these choices, and depending on the choice you make, it will now give you your next set of challenges. So, as I close off, I want you to think, and I want me to think, what are the choices that I'm making right now, and how will they impact who I become in the future? It's a lot to think about. And yeah, so I hope you all have an amazing week, and I hope you all stay safe, and we will talk next week for episode 3.